right, Brewer fans. Welcome to the Brew Review podcast number 16. We're coming at you on May 20th, 2018. The Milwaukee Brewers are still in first place, and joining me today is Scott.
Hey,
Scott.
everybody.
Vince.
Hey, Craig. Hey, Scotty.
And is it worth even asking? Chad, are you there?
Chad did send in a text earlier today, guys. I tried to tell him that the show was on, and pretty much like we do every Sunday night. And he said that he had a quote wrestling obligation. So I don't know what that all entails. Scott, do you have any good guesses as to what that could mean?
I don't know, but I did just watch the Undertaker versus Mankind Hell in a Cell last night. I was kind of bored. There was the one where they threw him off the top of the cage, and then Undertaker slammed him through the cage, and they didn't expect the cage to break, and it did. And he went all the way down, and he thought he killed him, and his two front teeth popped out, but he got up and finished the match.
Yeah, Chad didn't really elaborate if that's specifically the wrestling event that he was partaking in today, but it seems like I guess he might prioritize that over Brew Review. I don't know.
It's possible. I mean, we all got our obligations, I guess.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of an obligation for us, but it's fun.
Yeah, right. Well, we gotta come through for our viewers. So
Yeah.
what Dallas needs us.
Yep. All right. Well, the Milwaukee Brewers, let's recap this following week, I guess, for starters. They took 2 of 3 on the road against Arizona, and then also 2 of 3 also on the road in Minnesota to finish up the week 4 and 2, which I think exceeded all of our guesses, or were at least mine. I think I pegged us out going 500 for the week. Did you guys guess 4 and 2?
I did actually.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, we should probably give you we should start keeping track of someone nails it if they get a run or something. We'll keep track of our winning tally for the year or something.
What's the prize? We should give out a Brew Review prize.
Yeah, we'd have to think of that.
You can just take care of the Brewers dog Cooper for the week.
Oh, that's nice. We can just ship them back and forth. We could definitely do that.
Yeah, he's traded most of the time, so it's fine.
just come out of our station budget. We'll be fine.
and now the Brewers, the Brew Review email retriever is what Scott's talking about. And yeah, so every time you get an email retriever, bring it to Scott, that and his intern. So anyway, I guess let's start talking about. Well, first, I know Ryan Braun is not. This was put on the DL, so we'll hit on that and any other kind of updated news a little bit. But let's just first start by giving our thoughts on this week's games for what you're able to observe, and basically the pluses and the minuses as we go forward.
I mean, it seems from my perspective that the Brewers are an incredibly good road team. I think that even with the loss here today, we're taping on Sunday that we're 18-10 now on the road this season, which is an incredible stat to be 8 games over 500 on the road for a Brewers team. That hasn't always been the case. So that's one observation. Second, it was really nice to see the Brewers win against a good team in Arizona. I was not sure what to expect. It seems like we played poorly against some good teams this year, like the Cubs, and then really beat up on teams like the Marlins and the Reds and the Padres of the National League. But this week we were able to handle a very good team with the Diamondbacks by winning 3 out of 4 there, and then by winning 2 out of 3 against the Minnesota Twins as well.
Yeah, when you factor in everything, the whole the whole road trip, Rockies, Diamondbacks, Twins, I mean, those are 3 playoff teams from last year. And I think we had talked about in previous episodes that this is a Brewer team that was beating up on bad teams and getting beat up by good teams. So we weren't really sure what this Brewer team was going to be like. And I think that this road trip really told us a lot. We finished 7-3, just a really, really great road trip. And against some really great competition. So I think after this road trip, I think we're ready to say that this team is for real.
And one thing too, another observation that's all true, Scott. I think though that the offense, you still have some question marks. It seems like we have some really good games and some really poor games. Like Jake Odorizzi pretty much shut us down today. But I think that our bullpen is for real. Outside of Boone Logan, nobody's really struggling from the pen, and I don't think we can keep up that pace all season because it's just an incredible pace. But that being said, I think that we could positively say that this is a real strong point of our team this season, and that we can rely on the bullpen in ways that we have not been able to do in seasons past.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but I mean, even right now, like we really haven't had anybody pitching like an ace. And overall, I mean, people are pitching well, but they're like our starters or whatever. But our bullpen is so good that our team ERA is actually fourth best in the league right now. So
right.
Pitching is really carrying us.
I know that there'll be some aberrations and some blips along the way, but at this point, it sure feels good when you bring in Jeremy Jeffers to the game, or certainly Josh Hader, or even a guy like Matt Albers or Dan Jennings. It just seems like every one of these guys, with maybe the exception of Logan, has just been pitching incredibly well this year. So I don't know what's going on in the bullpen, but kudos to Lee Tunnell and to Derek Johnson and the Brewers pitching coaches for working their magic in the bullpen this year.
Well, you fellows make a lot of great points. Scott, thanks for pointing that out. On the entire road trip, obviously we started taking 3 of 4 in Colorado, and then to do what we did this week, a 7-3 West Coast / Minnesota road trip is something that Brewer teams for many, many years have not pulled off anything close to that. If on a West Coast trip like that, if the Brewers could have, been 5-5, that would have been, wow, that was a great road trip. So 7-3, great. I mean, if their home record was any better this year, they'd even be better, obviously. But as of this taping, we are 9 games over 500, which is definitely exceeding my expectations. Some of it, you really have to take a step back and like, how are we doing it? Because I really don't feel, especially on offense, we've been firing all cylinders ever at any point. I mean, without Vince Point is really 4th best ERA in baseball for our staff. There's no way we have the 4th most talented pitching staff. So again, there's got to be a reason for that. It's obviously not because of the park that we're pitching in either. I mean, Miller Park is more of a hitter's haven more than anything, and obviously it's pitching some nice pitching parks on the road or whatever. But I mean, there's nothing other than, like what Vince pointed out, is this bullpen in particular is not just smoke and mirrors. We literally have some dominant pitchers out in the bullpen. Josh Hader possibly being, at this point, arguably the best reliever in baseball, period. And then you add back into the mix Corey Knebel, who came back from injury very quickly in just a month, I believe, of time that he missed, and I expect him to be out longer. He's now back in the mix. Like you pointed out, Jeffers has just been lights out. We just got a guy like Boone Logan back, which should be a positive addition also. And really what it comes down to is then you're really only needing about 5 good innings out of your starters. And for a guy that's been our swingman, so to speak, Brent Suter, who's been in the rotation most of the year, but mostly due to injury, he's been kind of holding on to that spot for the most part. He's a kind of a typical guy that goes that 5, he hardly ever even goes 6 innings. He goes about 5 innings and gives up 2 or 3 runs and then turns it over to the bullpen. And that's usually a recipe for success, even with an offense that's not scoring a ton of runs. I mean, when you can do that, it's really showing how the need for dominant starting pitchers is not quite there as it's with some other teams around the league. So, this is a different model for success and one I don't think the Brewers organization has seen in a while, but it's definitely exciting. I did have some fears whether or not they'll be able to keep it up, but I'm starting to lean toward what Vince is saying, and that this, there's just no other way to slice it other than this bullpen is really good.
Yeah, those are all great points, Craig. And, it's really interesting to compare this Brewers team with teams from the Brewers past. And Craig, I think you just mentioned it about, previous times that the Brewers would play on the West Coast or against the NL West. It just seemed like every year we got our heads beaten in on our West Coast road trips. Right now, on the 2018 season, Brewers are already 8-2 against the National League West. Not just in road games, but overall, 8-2
Wow, nice.
against that division.
I know we'd always have a difficult time against a team like the Dodgers and even the Rockies, I remember. And even teams like San Francisco. San Francisco would always beat us like by a run or two, in a low-scoring game. It always seemed with their good pitching and everything. So, and I guess just overall in the NL, it's hard to really tell which teams are going to be the good teams here. I mean, I think we all pretty much projected going year that, the Nationals, Cubs, and Dodgers were the likely division winners. As of right now, and I don't believe any of those teams are leading their division. In fact, the Brewers are still in first place in NL Central. The Diamondbacks have really fallen back down to earth, but I think they're still hanging on first out west. And then the NL East, it's the surprising upstart Braves, I believe, are still holding on to first place. So I think those are all surprises. I don't know if they'll be able to keep it up, but I don't know. I mean, just like last year, it's obviously everyone's going to assume that the Cubs are going to come from, poor start to come and win the NL Central. It seems likely still, but I don't know. I don't know. Do you guys have any overall thoughts on teams that you think will start to emerge in the NL? The NL overall, as we kind of approach the All-Star break in the next couple months.
Yeah, it's really interesting, guys. I mean, it seems like a lot of the teams that you just mentioned, Craig, have not been able to gain much traction. So, the Dodgers had lost, I think, 3 or 4 in a row. At the beginning of this week, they come in to face the Nationals, who have been playing better and who had just swept the Diamondbacks, and then the Nationals get beat and swept by the Dodgers. And it just seems like for a team like the Dodgers, who won so many games last year, they've suffered some pretty significant injuries. I know Justin Turner finally just got back and is now back in their lineup, so maybe that'll change things a little bit. But it's tough to dig yourself out of a hole that's, 10 games or greater at any point in the season. Now, the Dodgers still have a ton of talent, and there's still a lot of time left, but, it is getting harder and harder to dig yourself out of these, double-digit deficits, in divisions with other good teams. So who knows? It's been kind of a seesaw, weird year where you've got the Braves and the Phillies kind of taking charge in the National League East ahead of the Nationals, and it's just kind of a weird year so far.
Yeah, and as unpredictable as the National League has been is about as predictable as the American League has been. I mean, in the East, you have Yankees and Red Sox at the top, and then, of course, Cleveland and Minnesota's trying to catch them. And then after that, you have Houston, and they're winning. So, yeah, I mean, no real surprises, I guess, in the AL, but the NL, yeah, is a whole different ballgame. I also wanted to bring up, I guess, change the subject a little bit. When Eric Thames went down, I think everybody thought that this was going to be a pretty big blow to our offense, but it's led to more opportunities now for Aguilar's getting more at-bats, and then, of course, we called up G-Man Choi. And these guys really have picked up where Thames left off. I mean, first base is easily the offensive juggernaut of our team. I mean, they've done so well. I just really want to tip my cap to those guys.
Yeah, that's a good point, Scott. And, I think that we should throw some kudos towards David Stearns, the GM of the Brewers. I think that many of us were at least a bit skeptical as to why the team would even sign a guy like G-Man Choi when you already had, too many first basemen, at least on paper. But by keeping these guys in the organization, and I think the big move is making sure that Aguilar still had a spot on that opening day roster. He's really given us some flexibility. Obviously, injuries hurt every team, but when you've got some organizational depth and you can bring in a guy like Jesus Aguilar to take off, some of the pressure from the rest of the offense when a guy like Ryan Braun gets hurt or a guy like Eric Thames gets hurt and is out of the lineup, it'll be, you're not losing much. And Aguilar showed that this weekend when he's getting some more, playing time. He hit, 4 homers in the Minnesota series? Just incredible. And he has that type of raw power that you can count on him to at least give you a competitive at bat or a chance at a home run every single time that he comes to the plate. He's a really exciting guy to watch. of my favorite guys to watch hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually think if Eric Thames was healthy right now with Braun being out, Thames would wind up being at this point playing almost exclusively in the outfield, just because Aguilar and Choi are hitting so well. I mean, we have such a glut of offense coming out of first base that, yeah, there's who knew that we needed all those guys? Just like you said. I mean, I guess you can never have enough bats.
Yeah, and that's true. And I say that as a big Thames fan too. I like the approach that Thames brings to the plate. I like his power, and I like the fact that he can take a walk. He's got good gap power at all fields. But that being said, I really don't think that there's much of a drop off right now. If you had Thames here, like you said, Scotty, he'd be back in the outfield and maybe in a soft platoon at first, but with Aguilar getting a ton of at bats, and he would just be an addition to the lineup. I don't think you're subtracting as much though when you take him out just because of Aguilar. And G-Man Choi is certainly a decent enough guy to fill in as a backup first baseman right now. He's had very limited major league action, but he's already had the key clutch hit on opening day against San Diego, and he only in his first game back, his first at bat back in the big league after his call-up this weekend as well. So exciting to see our offense, at least at first base, clicking a little bit. You hope that carries over across the rest of the lineup where you do still have a couple of weak spots further down in the order.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess I don't know. Do you have any other topics that you wanted to talk about? I was just going to go over the big homestand we have coming up to round out May.
All right, I'm back, guys. Sorry. Apparently, someone else called on my phone and knocks out my call. This is wonderful.
That would never be a problem for me.
we just kind of kept talking, Craig. So you can edit that how you see fit. We just after we realized you weren't there, we just sort of kept talking.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's what you should do. But all right, Scott, how much time is left before the thing?
Well, that's a great question, Craig. Let me just double check here. It does not say, and I don't remember when we started. But we just did talk about first base and Thames and G-Man and Aguilar carrying the offense. The bats coming to life a little bit. We didn't talk about VR yet, which I actually kind of wanted to give him a little bit of props just for not being completely useless. And then we were going to go over.
Did we already take up enough time, or do you just want to? Is there time to do one more and then just do the guesses for this week?
I'd like to talk about the homestand, and then we could, of course, talk about the guesses.
Yeah, talk about the homestand. Then go ahead. Just do that, and then that should be enough.
All right. Let's see here. Try to get this figured out. All right. Well, I guess the only other thing we really wanted to bring up is as tough of a road trip that was. I know it didn't seem tough. We were 7-3 against all these playoff teams, but we're going to play some really tough competition with our home cooking. This is going to be a 9-game homestand. We got to play 3 against those D-backs again, and 3 more against the Mets, and then we wrap up the series with 3 against the Cardinals. So, or wrap up the.
So is it 4 against the Mets?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, 4 against the Mets. You're right. So yeah, 10-game homestand.
Okay.
Nice to get back at home for that long stretch. I mean, seems like we've been on the road for a while with this trip. So even though we're 1 game over 500 at home so far on the season, so it'll be nice to get back there. Hopefully we can bump those numbers up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm hoping to go to this coming Tuesday night's Brewers Diamondbacks game, as I have my 2 favorite NL teams. But yeah, I really think that the Brewers need to start doing better at home, and I think they'll start right now. Obviously, I'm not happy about Braun being out. I mean, like you guys discussed while I was trying to call back in, I'm sure, He-Man Choi comes back, and that didn't he homer like in his first at bat, or definitely in the first game he was back, and having him and Aguilar as a first base tandem with both Thames and Braun out, I think is a luxury the Brewers are lucky to have, because otherwise it seems like our offense is not really missing too much of a beat. With that being said, I do think Braun and Thames are two of our best hitters of Yelich and Keane, obviously. So having those guys back is only going to be a shot to the arm of the offense. But in the meantime, I think we're really seeing what we have with a guy like Jesus Aguilar, who's just all around has been a great hitter.
Yeah, Jesus has been great. One guy, too, that I hope that we're all going to see turn around fairly soon is Domingo Santana. I know that some of us have different expectations of kind of what kind of player he is, but I still tend to believe that Santana is going to come through, with his numbers going up by the end of the season. I think that, he's been worse than typical or what his talent level should be, in the first month and a half of the year. And I think he started to turn around a little bit. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Jack, could you have Jewel, your intern, get Santana's numbers in the last road trip up and let us know? It seems like they went up a little bit, and hopefully he can turn it around as well. He'd be getting his bat back to what it was even this last season would be a huge boost to this lineup right now.
Yeah, he's coming around a little bit. He's hitting 254 now, still just 2 homers, on base of 329, OPS 664. Not the Domingo Santana of last year, certainly, but not as bad as the Domingo Santana of April. So, hopefully it comes around a little bit. I actually also wanted to mention that VR is he's coming around a little bit now. He's hitting 287. Not bad. Not getting the walks that he did in his breakout 2016 campaign. And since he's not getting on base as much, he's not getting the stolen bases. And, hopefully he'll come around. And then the last thing I actually wanted to bring up, we know that Arcia has been struggling all year, and that second base in general is getting kind of a black hole so far this year. How about the start of Saladino? He's hitting 438 already, and 2 homers already, and just his 16 at bats. So, a little bit of a spark plug. Obviously he's not going to keep that up, but it's nice that he didn't, fall prey to what everybody else in the middle infield is doing.
Yeah, he had a surprisingly good first week as a Brewer, didn't he? I thought that, we all probably shared some disappointment that Dubon's injury occurred when it did, just because, we had hoped that we might be able to see him in the bigs this season, and then his injury just couldn't have occurred at a worse time. But yeah, Saladino had a great first week, at least as a Brewer. I don't know if he's our long-term answer as a utility infielder, but certainly glad that he's playing well.
Well, yeah, he did more in 1 week than Sogard seemed to do the whole year up to that point. So,
and that inside the park home run too, Craig, was reminded me of Prince back in the Metrodome in what was it, 05, 07? 07.
Yeah. So, but no, that was exciting, and I think he's a solid addition to replace Sogard. And he's definitely worth mentioning on our podcast. So it's a good idea bringing him up. But, yeah, so hopefully he can contribute and just shows more that Stearns is right there, either building depth or looking for depth at all times when these injuries pop up. And they are happening this year with the Brewers, and they happen throughout all baseball. So it really shows the importance of building quality depth, especially at the upper level of your organization. So, I guess, all right, so we can wrap this up. Should we do our guesses for this week, Monday through following Sunday? We've got 3 games against the Diamondbacks, followed by 4 games against the Mets. 2 pretty good pitching staffs, but what are your guys' guesses on how we're going to do this week?
Let's say optimistic. We'll say 5-2. 2 out of 3 from Arizona, and 3 out of 4 against the Mets.
I'm going to say, boy, this just really seems like a 3-4 kind of thing. But I'm gonna, the team's hot. I'm gonna bump it up to 4-3.
All right, let's hope we're not all wrong. I'm gonna go with 5-2 also. I'll say 2 against Diamondbacks and 3 against the Mets. So.
Craig, typically you pick the Brewers to lose, and then they win. Oh boy, I hope this doesn't jinx.
Yeah, I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried. I was just stuck with that.
Normally, because I think you had us winning 2 games on the road trip or something crazy, and now we got. Oh boy, this could be bad.
Yeah, tough not.
And then Tom Carter told me that he's actually predicting us to sweep the Mets in the 4-game set and to win 2 or 3 from Arizona. So that's what our anonymous source Tom Carter told me.
Oh, actually, I was going to ask about that. Were you referring to a different Tom Carter or our anonymous source Tom Carter?
No. This is our anonymous source Tom Carter, the one who gives us all the inside information and works for the Brewers. He's our anonymous source since like 2004, Scott.
Yeah, I know, but I thought we were going to keep him anonymous from now on because he's growing increasingly agitated about us revealing his identity.
You think? Oh boy.
Well, he's been able to keep his employment there for at least the last 14 years.
So okay, fine.
Must
so
be doing something right.
All right, fine. So if we're talking about Tom Carter's our anonymous sources predictions, what do we say? We could do if we can't say anonymous source Tom Carter's name on the air, what should we do?
We could still say anonymous source and then like maybe Tom C or T Carter, something like that.
All right. Well, I guess we can try that.
Just not all of it.
Just not our anonymous source Tom Carter. Okay, got it. We can have one of the interns edit that out.
Especially when we say he works for the Brewers because it's a common name, but I don't think
it's
there's
hard
Tom Carter's a Brewers, so.
Well, no, there's definitely not. It's definitely our anonymous source, Tom Carter. But I don't know. I mean, it'd be easier to edit this out if we weren't doing this live all the time. I mean, that's the problem. So, whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so hopefully the Brewers have a winning week once again. We'll be able to maintain our slim lead or possibly increase it in our first place NL Central status. So again, great show, guys. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. And until next time,
stay classy. Go Brewers.
Go Brewers.